Hi, and welcome to No Boundaries Mother and Daughter Edition, a weekly podcast in which we, a mother and daughter duo, discuss controversial topics while also exploring our bond. And as you can see, I'm the mother, and my name is Anusha.
And I'm the daughter, and my name is Lulu. So today's controversial topic of the week is coming out. My experience with coming out as a lesbian, my mom's experience with her daughter coming out, tips, good sides, bad sides, everything. We're gonna dive in all the details of this experience, and I think especially now, it's an important time to let our voices be heard and let it be known that we're present and we're not going anywhere. So that's why we're making this episode today.
Absolutely. We also have a new little segment we want to introduce weekly. That's our shout out and shame of the week. So let's start positive. Let's start with our shout out. Lulu, what is our shout out of the week?
So our shout out and shames of the week will be things that we enjoyed this week that we want to shout out, or something fun we want to share. The shames will be things we didn't enjoy from this week that we also want to share. So our shout out this week is a new show that I'm sure most of you have heard about, Adolescence. It's a British show on Netflix, and each episode is filmed in only one shot, and the episode is an hour long. So just already thinking of the production that went into this is mind-blowing. I watched it last night, my mom watched it a few days ago, and both of us, as soon as this was on, we watched the whole season in one sitting. It's 4 episodes, 4 hours. Couldn't get us away from TV.
No, incredible. And even your dad, my husband, who usually falls asleep when we watch something, he stayed awake for 4 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
So, in short, what it's about, what the makers said themselves, it's about male rage.
Yeah.
That's actually what it's about, and they explore it from different kind of perspectives and angles. I don't want to give too many spoilers because you just have to watch it for yourself, but it's a beautiful way of exploring male rage, which is so palatable now in society and which has become such a thing, especially online, and that it has a lot to do especially with young boys and men becoming more lonely and more involved in an online world, in their own kind of world, or the online world, right?
Mm-hmm.
To explain it the right way?
Because and to make it even simpler, it focuses on the incel community online, which is a group of men that believe that they're undesirable by women, but they believe it's the women's fault, and women are the ones they should be angry at. So it was very well done in the show, and it was about a 13-year-old boy. So it was also interesting to see how young this starts.
So we also have our shame of the week, and let me dive into that. I wrote it down because, as you know, English is not my first language and I want to say it correctly. This is our shame of the week. A recent change in the law removed explicit ban on segregated facilities, meaning there is no longer a clear rule that says that spaces must be integrated. This doesn't necessarily mean that segregation is now required, but it opens the door for facilities to separate people based on criteria like color, religion, sex, or sexuality.
Gender identity and race.
Yes, exactly. All of those criteria. So that can happen without directly violating the law, right? So there's still a law that says you're not allowed to do that, but this clause, it's a shift in legal language that could have real-world implications depending on what happens next and how it's enforced.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's really scary.
So basically, segregation means that places are allowed to have a white space only, like stores, public parks, buses, water fountains. They're allowed to say this is only for white people and this is only for people of color. So that has been banned many years ago. But now it's slowly coming back. So this is the first layer of that. So although by law it's still not allowed, this is one rule taken away from that law which opens opportunities for more people to obviously tackle that law. So it's very scary, and that means we're one step closer to segregation coming back, which is crazy, especially with the amount of different identities and mixes there are right now. I don't even know how that would look.
Yeah. So like if you're gay, you're allowed in this space and not in that space. Or if you're a trans woman, you're not allowed in that space. Well, as we know, that already happens with bathrooms. So it's really frightening. We live here in the United States. We're from the Netherlands, which is a very free and liberal country. I can only say I hope New York is still, it's not going to affect New York. But I don't know. Yeah, that's our shame. There's nothing...
Big shame.
Yeah, big shame, nothing happy about it. And that's why it's so important that we're going to dive in our subject of the week, our controversial topic, which shouldn't be controversial, but it still is topic of the week. Lulu, I'm giving the floor to you to explain it.
So, coming out experience. I would like to start that I don't believe in coming out. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think anyone should have to go through thinking of exactly how they identify and having to have this moment where you sit your parents down or your friends down and come out to them. Unfortunately, that's not the reality we live in, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. I don't agree with having to come out. And that's one thing I always appreciated with my parents. It was always this thing where if you're ever in love and you want us to meet the person you're in love with, you can just bring them over and we meet them, and that's it. It never had to be this, they never made us feel like we need to come out. So yeah, that's my start off. But now with that being said, let's speak about how I came out and my experience with coming out and how I found my true self. So we're going to start it back to when I was around 14, 15, and people start exploring boys. I mean, it's a thing younger, but that's when it becomes like a bigger thing in where I grew up. And I had crushes on boys like every other girl. And it was just kind of this thing where when I started experimenting with boys because it was part of our age and it was what everyone did. And if a guy likes you, it was like fun, let's see where it goes, whatever. So from then until I turned 18, I've only been with guys, and there hasn't been a single sexual experience that I've engaged in with a guy that I actually enjoyed. Not one. But yet it took until I was 18 to realize that I wasn't sexually attracted to men and that I wasn't into men, which is a very confusing thing. And one of the first questions I always get asked is how come I found out so late. So when I grew up, I never questioned that I was gay, ever. And then people start experimenting with boys, and me too. And I never liked having sex with men, ever. And I can confidently say that I think every single one of my experiences with guys when it comes to sex were drunk or under the influence of alcohol, which is already a really big red flag. But I always thought that the issue was two things. I thought one was I was really avoidant, I'm really picky, I don't like people easily, like guys easily, and I was very focused on my own things. I've always been very independent. So I thought one was that I just didn't really meet a guy that piqued my interest. Also, I've always been very political, and guys don't usually like that, and I would always argue with them about politics. So that was already a turnoff for me. And the second thing was that we learned that boys at our age in the teenage years, they're just not good at what they're doing. They're immature. They don't know how to please women. So it was normal for it not to be good. And when I spoke to my friends, a lot of them also didn't have good experiences because guys didn't know what they were doing. And that was just like normal, whatever. So I never questioned it. And it was just a once in a while thing when I got drunk and I went out. So that's kind of my experiences with guys. Never a relationship, never a romantic connection. Then I went to college, and then there was this girl. And I remember in high school in America, that was my first experience seeing masculine presenting women. And I joined the basketball team, and I already remember that I felt nervous around these girls, or weird, but I couldn't explain why. It was more like a nerve-wracking thing, and I thought it was just because I wasn't familiar with it. But then I came to college, there was a masculine girl there who was very attractive. And I recognized that from the start that she was attractive, but wasn't thinking anything of it. But this girl was on me from the start. Like, she peeked me out. It was pre-orientation. We went on this little camp. She saw me and went straight for me. She was very bold, very outgoing. And even though I told her I was straight, it didn't affect her. She wanted to be friends. She still wanted to talk to me. So we became close pretty quickly. And then one day we all went to Six Flags, which is like an amusement park. And yeah, we were very talking the whole day because there was all these long lines for the attractions. So we would just be talking the whole day, flirting, and I had fun. So, you know. And then on the bus back, she was tired. So she like leaned on me to go to sleep. And at one point, she grabs my hand and holds my hand. And I'll never forget the feeling I had in that moment. Like, I never knew holding a hand could feel so powerful or so like nice until that moment. And it literally felt like in those movies, like how they speak about it and in the songs. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And then after the bus, I like freaked out and I went to my friend and I went to my dorm and I spoke to my friend and I was so confused. Like, what does this mean? Does it mean I like girls? I don't know. So confusing. And then I was so nervous to hang out with her that night, so I canceled. The next day we did hang out. And yeah, that's when things got a little further. We kissed and yeah, from there on we just became closer and closer. So it was a very new experience, very special. And the biggest moment where I realized like this is it for me was obviously our first sexual encounter, because all of a sudden I felt the urge, sorry mom, but I felt the urge to touch her, to feel her. I wanted to do things, and I never felt about guys. I was never interested in touching them in any kind of way, or it was always more like getting it over with. But now I wanted to take my time. I wanted to do these things, and most importantly, it was natural. I went to do these things without needing to be asked or needing to feel like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. It was just natural. That's the biggest thing. So that's when I realized, wow, this is what was missing all this time. And then I assumed I was bi. Time goes on and I realized like, no, like I'm a lesbian because romantically I'm only able to fall in love with women. And I'm only able to connect in that level with women. So that was my journey. But I remember there was this very difficult time where I thought I was bi and then I thought I was gay and I went back and forth like, am I like a lesbian, am I bi? It was so confusing. So that's another thing. I don't think it's important to label yourself. If you like to label yourself like me, you can. But I don't think you should be too stuck on that. Take it as it goes and you realize who you like, what you like. And it can change depending on what period of time you're in. So labels can make it feel like this pressure, like you have to stay true to that. And you don't, because you like who you like. You can't, like, people you like, you can't really explain why you like them. Like, sure, they can have these great traits, but is that different than a friend? It's just a feeling. That's all it is. So you like who you like. I don't care about labels. Anyways, with that being said, the way my mom found out was actually not through me, which is surprising because, as I mentioned, my parents were not homophobic and they didn't care. And my sister had already came out to them like 3 years before this.
As a child, really young.
Very young, yeah. So it wasn't a big deal. But when I first got in a situation with this girl, I didn't tell my parents anything because she was abusive and it got dark and bad really fast. Like, I know I just told this really cute story. Don't let it fool you. This was a terrible experience. And I can get into another time why I didn't go to my parents about the abuse and why it took so long for my parents to get involved. Point is, I didn't mention it just because of that. Not because I was ashamed that I was with a girl. It was just because I was ashamed that she was a terrible person. And that same girl, when it got really bad and my parents ended up getting involved, I had to call them because something really bad happened. She left after that and called my mom through her own phone and told my mom this whole story about, oh yeah, I bet you didn't know that your daughter is gay. She likes me. She's with a girl, but she's embarrassed to tell you. That's why she hasn't told you yet. So that's how my mom found out, which obviously isn't the best way to find out. And I was lucky that my mom obviously didn't care that I was gay. But I could have had a homophobic mom and it would have been very messed up to be outed like that. It's never cool to out someone. When you realized, okay, my daughter's gay, or she's with a girl, how did you react? Were you surprised? Which I've never even asked you. Like, did you expect this? So yeah.
Yeah, I was not surprised.
Okay, great.
I think I always knew. Even when you were really small, even though as a small little girl you would fall in love with little boys, you know, you had big crushes and you had big emotions. I always said to your dad, if we would speak about it with friends, I wouldn't be surprised if Lulu likes girls.
Okay. And how come? Because I'm pretty feminine presenting.
Yeah.
And I've always been friends with straight girls. And yeah, I'm just curious, how come you could still tell? Is it like a mother instinct? Or
yeah.
How does that work?
No, it's a mother. I mean, first of all, like you said, I believe also that sexuality is a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've also been in love with girls. I know that's always kind of weird when, you know, quote unquote straight people say that, but you can have romantic feelings, right?
Yeah.
Or also, and I've been so in love with some of my friends that I literally felt like if things were like, if I would live in a society where, say, it's normal to kind of experiment with girls and there's no labels, I'm sure I would have done that, you know. So I was also raised open-minded. So first of all, I'm very romantic, so I believe in love. Love is love. So I was always open-minded in that sense. And with you, yeah, as a mom, I just felt, yeah, and especially I think when you started experimenting with guys, when I noticed there was a period when you were, before you left for college, that I could tell you were very stressed, you were not happy, and you were also not nice to us, not nice to me, and not nice to your sister particularly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I always had the feeling you were something was, yeah, you were not yourself.
And you had the feeling I was not myself because I was in situations with guys, or?
Yeah, the way I don't know if you remember that conversation right before you went to college. We kind of spoke about it, and you said some things to me, and I remember, I don't know if you remember, I said to you, but Lulu, if you don't like it, you know, I want you to be happy and like physical stuff you do.
Yeah.
I want you to enjoy it and to look forward to it and to be excited about it. And and I don't really hear you say that. And you said to me, I never forget, Mom, maybe I'm just not romantic like you. Maybe I'm just not like you. You fall in love and it's like all these big feelings. Maybe I'm just not a person, how I remember it, right?
Yeah.
In my interpretation,
I remember saying something like that.
Yeah, maybe I'm just not a person who has big feelings.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, and I even said that to your dad, like, wow, do you think that, you know?
Yeah, like I was so numb when it came to guys.
Yeah, exactly that word.
Okay, interesting. So you always raised me with a very open mind about sexuality. Like whenever they would talk about romance or how children are made or things like that, they would always mention like, oh, because if you're with a guy or a girl, like it was always very open-ended. I wonder now, were you raising us so open-endedly because you had an inkling that you got 2 lesbian daughters? Or was it like, that's just how you always knew you wanted to raise your kids?
Yes, I was very conscious that both Martijn and I, your dad and I, both wanted to raise our kids that way. Martijn has also lesbian aunts in his family. I'm an actor. I have amazing gay and lesbian friends always, you know, always part of my life and my circle. So to me, that's very important. And your grandmother, my mom, who is, you know, born in 1932, so she's 92 right now. She's going to be 93 this year. She was also always very open-minded, because I remember coming to her as a child and like asking, you know, when I saw something on TV or something about men liking men, she was like, yeah, love is the most beautiful thing there is. And if you love someone, that's most important. You know, consenting adults loving each other, that's what's important and nothing else. That's all she kind of said.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a very conscious decision. And I even didn't want to get married until, until I knew that would be legal for people to get married. Everybody would be able to get married.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really important to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Can you explain how you raised us in a way that we could feel free to be whoever we were? Specifically about like sexuality.
Yeah, so always, being conscious in talking about when you come home with someone you love, whoever or it is, always be clear about it. Also, I think also explaining that you can also have children together if you're men together or girls together, women. I think also, I don't know if we really spoke about friends of ours or that I explained it, and also television. I remember I remember telling you to watch, for instance, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I don't know if you know that. Remember the series where there's also a bisexual.
Is that why you wanted us to watch it?
No, I just always wanted you to watch a variety.
Yeah.
I always, and even with books, and I remember there was this children's book about a prince who has to get married, and he doesn't like any, they present all these beautiful princesses and he doesn't want to marry them, he doesn't like them, until there's a really cute prince he meets.
Oh.
So, and I always thought it's beautiful and nice. We have to tell all sorts of stories, just like for me, raising you guys also conscious about race and color and culture and different religions and all sorts of things.
Yeah, speaking of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I think from my memory, that's the first show I've seen where they actually explain how it could look for same-sex relationships to get children. It was two guys, and it was, when I was younger, I did know you could get children, but it was always like adopting. But this show actually opened us up to new possibilities, such as finding donors. So yeah, that was very interesting, and that show actually got my sister to come out. That show made her realize that at the time she was bi. Right now we don't really label it anymore, but back then it was relevant. And it's funny because I will never forget when my sister came out. I want to say she was 12.
I think even younger, 10 or 11.
She was young.
No, 12 she was in the United States. No, she came
10
out
or
10.
11, yeah.
Before we went to
it was
the United
very
States.
young. And I remember that when she came out, after that, my mom and I had a conversation, and then she was like laughing about it because she was like, oh, it's so funny because I always expected you to be the one to come out instead of your sister, but it's actually oppositely. And when she told me that was the first time in my life ever that I thought of the possibility of me being gay. Like, that was the first time ever that thought occurred to me where I was like, oh, like, me, girls, like, it's a possibility, like, it's technically possible. So it's just funny. Yeah, that's just a funny memory I had.
Yeah, and speaking of that, if we look back on that, because we also of course want to help people who listen to this, parents, children. Was it okay that I said that, or is that because if you talk about coming out and everything, should you say that to a child?
No,
right?
You shouldn't say that.
So sorry.
It's funny now because that was the first memory of me ever thinking of me being gay. But obviously it's not a good thing to say. No. Like, you should never be like, oh, I didn't expect them, I expected you. Yeah. Because that can make someone feel conflicted.
So I'm sorry.
And it's also not nice to Ella, of course.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. And I'll say sorry to Ella. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. And you see, so with you I had the feeling, but with Ella,
you
not.
didn't.
No?
Yeah. So I came out pretty late. And yeah, it just shows. It's all about like meeting the right person at the right time, and it shows that some people might know it young, some people don't. But the whole point of my coming out late is to show that you like who you like, and a lot of times you don't find that until you run into that person that makes you feel that kind of way. So that's why it shouldn't be too focused about if it's a girl or a boy, because yeah, it could come at any time. It could be any person. It could have also been that was the first time I met a guy that I liked. So it's like, it's more about meeting the right person rather than trying to figure out what gender it is to me. Yeah, although I don't believe in labels, I use the label lesbian. And I identify as a lesbian for multiple reasons. The most important one is obviously that I know for a fact that I only feel romantically connected to women. But another reason I identify as lesbian, it's also political. Like, I want to make sure I'm very out, I'm very vocal on my sexuality, especially as someone who doesn't necessarily look it according to standards. That's why it's important for me to be very vocal about it. And I deal with a lot of harassment from men, and I deal with a lot of male gays and a lot of guys, which is another reason that me calling myself a lesbian is in a way to also get rid of those kind of guys around me. Like it makes them look at me differently, and it makes me feel better, because then I don't have these men around me. So in a way, it's also a protective layer, which is weird because lesbians get discriminated against. But it helps when it comes to dealing with men harassing me, as much as that sucks. And I also am very loud about being a lesbian because I'm seeking community. Like right now, unfortunately, labels is a big thing, and that's how you find your community easier. So I'm very vocal in the lesbian community to find other queer friends and meet other queer people and learn about queer experiences, and I want to be surrounded by that. So in that sense, it can help when you label yourself. So those are reasons I label, but in an ideal world, no one would have a label.
Yeah.
We're just not there yet.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's difficult in this society.
It's very hard. Yeah. So, yeah, I was lucky to grow up with a mom who was very open-minded, but I know a lot of people don't have that experience. And I would like for you, as someone who is not part of the queer community and you don't identify with any of those labels, I'm wondering, like, what is your, like, tips for parents to, even if they're straight and far removed from this, how can they still be supportive? And also the parents who are unsupportive, maybe have advice or a different perspective for them to look at it, to make them more supportive.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's amazing now is that there's so much information that you can look up yourself. So, like the mistake that I made telling you as a child, I always thought you would be the one, you don't have to make those mistakes anymore, because you can, if you have that kind of feeling or something, or I don't see it as like a negative thing for me. It was a way to connect to you, like that I thought that I saw you for who you are.
Yeah.
Well, it's good then to look up, like, hey, what should I do? Should I open it up or not, or leave? Because what I've learned myself is that you follow the child. So you don't engrade yourself. You don't make it about you. I'm an actress, so it's always easy to make it about me. No, you leave it up to the child, which happened naturally with Ella, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And I always knew Ella has big feelings, has big heart, big feelings. So, so it was...
You knew it was better to say less than too much with her.
Yes, and because you are very you're like an extrovert, but emotionally you're an introvert, in my
I
opinion,
agree.
right? So that's why I felt more of a sort of like, I have to help you, which it's not like I learned also in therapy, in family therapy, it's not about you.
Right, that's a big one. It's not about you, and even if you mean well, it can come across not the best way. Like if I were to be like, I'm a lesbian, and your response is like, oh my god, I wish I was a lesbian, or I like girls, I think girls are way prettier than guys, or ooh, I wish I like girls, I just can't imagine eating. Those are not positive response. Like I know the intention is there. You're on the right. Like I see the vision, the execution, no, it's just not there. Like just because you're having a positive mindset doesn't mean it comes across that way, because like you said, it's not about you, and if anything, it's just making it about yourself when someone else feels vulnerable enough to tell you something personal about them.
And it's also our generation, right? Gen X is a generation that just says, and we can be very blunt and teasing each other and be nasty, and thank God that has changed. So that's important. And then your other question was about parents who are not, right? Initially,
like parents who don't accept their children for being gay. Do you have anything that could potentially open their eyes or help them look at it from a different side?
Yeah, I mean, this is very emotional, difficult to speak about, because I'm not a religious person, so I cannot speak from, because first of all, I believe in, just like my mom said, love is love, and if two people love each other, and we're talking about consenting and a consenting age, who are we to interfere, and why? And also, maybe I say something really silly or stupid, but if you believe in God, why would God make such a quote unquote mistake? I don't believe that. If we're all made in God's image, that means that the image that God has is beautiful, huge, amazing, and not small-minded. So why then we as silly humans would question our own God? So for me, it's very difficult to hold the hand of somebody who's bigoted or who believes in certain rules or who say it's a lifestyle. And who cares? I don't care if it's a lifestyle or whatever, or biological or genetic. I don't care. I think it's important, just like you said, if you love is the most beautiful and important thing we need in this planet, especially now, to love more. Yeah. So let's enjoy love. And if I look at you and your girlfriend, and if I look at Ella and her girlfriend, that just fills me with joy and happiness, and to see those beautiful girls together and loving each other, and that's just a beautiful thing. And the same with my with guy friends and people who identify in whatever way. If people who, however you, if I see love, makes me happy, and that raises your endorphins, and it's good for your hormones. It's good for everything to see love. Yeah,
I agree. It's such an emotional topic. Like,
so emotional.
All you want for your kids is for them to be happy,
and
feel good about themselves and be safe. And if they are that, who are you to hate on who they're in love with? Like my mom said, like my sister and her girlfriend, they've literally been together since they went into high school, and they're so cute and sweet and so good for each other. They fit so well. They're so close. It's the cutest thing to watch. And I sometimes just look at them like making their Legos together or listening to songs, and I'm just like, how can anybody hate on that? They're the most harmless people who are just simply existing and just enjoying spending time with each other. How can anyone hate that? Like, no. I don't understand it.
No,
I actually can't understand it. And another thing, it's like, why do you care what other people do with their sex lives? Like, you don't have to do it.
Exactly.
You don't have to do it. Why do you care how other people do it? It's not your business. Like, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you in any way.
No. And not even your way, standard, or your way of living, or your way of connecting with God, or whatever, your church. Yeah, do what you want to do, right?
Exactly.
And be happy that there's love. We need love on this planet.
Especially now. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to say. And, there's so much information you can get. There's so much you can read and research. We'll put some incredible links also in the show notes. Let's focus on love, and let's fight for because the only thing that worries me is how society is treating people who love each other. That's my only fear. And now the law that we talked about and things that are changing. So let's use our energy for that, to make sure that the world is a safe and beautiful place for everybody.
Yeah.
Let's put resources
first.
Focus and safe. Yeah, in that. Exactly.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree. That got very intense.
Got intense,
sucks because this should be a happy topic, and unfortunately, it's not a happy topic.
But it's also a happy topic.
Yes, because the most importantly, we're happy. We're
happy.
Accepting, and we're doing our thing. And I will say it again: we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere.
Nope. I just wanna, say that. It's so innocent when some people are like, it's so difficult. How will I need time to process, or your father needs to. Why? Really? It's so simple. So beautiful and innocent. And again, love is love. It's so simple.
And we're still the same person.
Yeah.
Nothing about our character changes.
Nothing.
Literally nothing.
So it's simple. It's not that deep. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. It's a spectrum. And again, can you imagine if we were raised culturally completely different, that experimenting everywhere with everyone was completely normal, then our whole idea...
Which is another topic, but a lot of countries were originally super polyamorous and super open to exploring different sexualities until they got colonized and imperialized. So... It's always been around for centuries. And that's the thing for people who say it's a mutation. Mutations don't survive natural selection. Mutations starve out. That's why mutations that do exist, you don't see them as often. And this is not a mutation because it survives natural selection. If anything, we're only seeing an increase, which shows it's not a mutation. It's also not a choice. There is evidence and research that you can look up how in identical twins where one is gay and one is not gay, there's difference in the brain chemistry. So don't start science on me because I will come back.
Wait a minute, so there is difference in the brain chemistry or there's not?
Yeah, there's difference in the brain. So
yeah.
that shows it's out of your control.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
It's like scientifically not a choice.
We'll put some links for that in the show notes. So don't come at us, come with us, right? If you have any questions, if you want to discuss this more, if you want to get more information, whatever, we're open, totally great, in a nice way, in a polite way. We can discuss everything with you. No boundaries.
You can ask me any questions, okay? It can be scary to ask gay people for certain questions because you don't want to overstep. So I can be that token gay person in your life. I don't mind. Also, one last thing. If this episode aggravated you and you're blood boiling and you're like very annoyed and you hate everything we said, you should take a little look at yourself and think, because you know what happened to me if you're really defensive or it's really giving you a reaction. I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this, but you might be one of us. So
okay, great. And like and subscribe. If you do like these kind of topics, please like and subscribe. Share this podcast. We're independent podcast makers, so we need your support.
Yes.
We're on every platform, so please follow us, link us, and give us those amazing 5-star reviews. Yes. We need them, especially on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Yes. We need 5-star reviews as independent mother-daughter podcast makers.
Yes, and we will be posting a questionnaire on our Instagram story. So leave in random questions or advice you want or anything you want us to touch on. And next episode, the end of the episode, we will answer these questions. Little mother-daughter advice moment. So, yay.
As I love to end our show, Lulu, thank you. I love you. I love me. And of course, we love y'all.
Bye-bye.